Good morning, world, and welcome to the Patriot Party show. Tired of biased media and headline spin? At the Patriot Party, we bring you real news rooted in truth and the Constitution. Every Saturday morning, we break down the week's biggest stories from politics and world affairs to finance, tech, and entertainment, all through an America First lens. With bold debates, grassroots guests, and honest reporting, we make sure truth meets every corner of the news. Follow the Patriot Party show on Spotify and join the conversations shaping America's future. In the spirit of full transparency, this is going to be an extra special loaded Saturday morning episode because this is the first one to come out in 2 weeks due to personal issues. So some of the stories over the past 2 weeks that I feel like may have been misreported or not reported at all in mainstream media, I have included for a special ginormous episode today. So hold on, and let's start off the morning with Trump is not our friend. Healthcare scramble begins amid mixed signals from Trump. The president injected more uncertainty last week, saying he doesn't want to extend key insurance subsidies, but understands it might be necessary. If you are interested in reviewing the Patriot Party's proposed solution to healthcare reform, the Transparent Healthcare and HSA Reform Act, please check out our proposed legislation page on our website to read the proposal and date that it was proposed to Congress. We actually have two different proposals, the Constitutional Quality Control Board and this, and the dates that they were proposed. We are working tirelessly in D.C. right now to represent we the people with a true America First common sense legislative alternative to Obamacare, one that will help build generational wealth no matter what your income bracket is. It will reward people who don't go to the doctor or get sick. So it literally puts a monetary value on being healthy, not like a failed attempt at banning sodas from SNAP purchases and things like that. If you tell people if they stay healthy, they get wealthy, they're going to stay healthy. So right now, not only are we pushing this to the politicians to get a sponsor for our bill, but our people in D.C. are also in the process of contacting RFK Jr. to get him to endorse this as a MAHA initiative. So this will help save the American people $2 trillion a year. That is unheard of. So check it out at thepatriotparty.us. That's thepatriotparty.us on our proposed legislation page. So in real time, as we update it, you can see, because we believe in truth and transparency. What's the best disinfectant? Light. So Americans want billionaires out of politics. They think they're a threat to democracy. Polls show billionaires are more publicly involved in politics than ever, and Americans aren't loving it. More than half of Americans, 53%, believe billionaires threaten American democracy. If I think about it, I understand both sides, which is what I was always told a good lawyer should be able to do, and I try to think in that sense, being that I was brought up by lawyers. So I understand the argument side that if they have enough money, they can sway politics one way or another with their money. But on the flip side of that is by having the money, they are also not as prone to being bought by big corporations and lobbyists because they already have money and power. And they're not as hungry trying to gain more of it like our politicians. So, it's a two-edged sword. I see both sides. The biggest names on the list of billionaires that back Trump's transition: Howard Lutnick and Linda McMahon, who co-chaired the transition effort and went on to be named Commerce Secretary and Secretary of Education, respectively. Other billionaires who gave to Trump's transition include Paul Singer, Jeff Yass, and Stephen Witkoff, who went on to be named Trump's envoy to the Middle East. A classified Justice Department brief authorizing strikes on drug smuggling boats describes fentanyl as a potential chemical weapons threat, according to a White House member and another person familiar with the memo. The lengthy document by the department's Office of Legal Counsel outlines the Trump administration's still secret legal justification for the continuing military operation, which has sparked sharp criticism from Democrats and some Republicans since the strikes began in September. The mention of fentanyl is one of the many points in the brief, which was drafted over the summer to justify the use of military force against drug traffickers. It notes that fentanyl has been weaponized in the past. In 2002, Russia used aerosolized fentanyl to quell a hostage crisis at a Moscow theater, killing more than 100 of the roughly 700 people being held in the rescue attempt. So, for this memo's claim to be just, fentanyl would have to be considered in its weaponized form, not merely as a trafficked narcotic. The memo is stretching the definition by linking the opioid crisis to chemical weapons precedent. The growing rift between President Trump and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia boiled over Friday night into Saturday morning with back and forth jabs online following weeks of criticism surrounding files related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and concerns over the affordability in healthcare. Their feud exploded when Trump withdrew his endorsement of her late Friday and called her wacky and a ranting lunatic. He then threatened her with the possibility of being primaried. Also blasted the Georgian Republican as another fake politician and a disgrace to our great Republican Party. In response, Greene called for a new path forward, trying to take the high road after Trump's initial attack, saying she believes in the American people more than I believe in any leader or political party, which is understood. You do not have to support any politician to be considered a patriot. You have to support this country. And that's a huge misconception going on right now. So, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, this story continued to develop throughout the week. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced on Friday that she is resigning from Congress, saying she refused to be a battered wife, following her public fallout with President Trump, in which he unendorsed her and called her a traitor. This is exactly the kind of behavior that the Patriot Party movement civics initiative for middle and high school is trying to battle against. As adults, and especially as politicians, we need to be able to disagree. That's what makes this nation so good. That's what strengthens this nation. Everybody having a different opinion and being able to debate things out to try to find the best path forward. Not to try to satisfy everybody and put a little bit of this and a little bit of that so by the end you have a law that's unenforceable, but try to find the best path forward, no matter who it comes from, for the American people. You cannot define one person over one disagreement or even multiple disagreements. You can't define, like I said, an American patriot by their political standing. I will say this again, their support of America as a nation, not party politics, is what makes them a patriot or doesn't make them a patriot. I don't care what party you are. I don't care what color you are. If you support our great nation, you are a patriot. If you support making our nation better, you are a patriot. If you don't, and you secretly hope for the downfall of America, you are not a patriot. Very simple. Trump offers praise. Now, this is crazy. You know, he's attacking MTG, but then he offers praise for Rational Mamdani, the one who just won the mayor in New York. He had a White House meeting with him. President Trump on Friday offered praise for New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani after what the two called a productive meeting at the White House, a sharp shift from Trump's previous attacks when he repeatedly derided Mamdani as a communist. This is another example of how party politics change with the wind. There's no need to retire, Margie Taylor Greene, because Trump unendorsed you. Stand on your own and represent your people. I don't see what him endorsing you has to do with representing people. He changes with the wind. He may re-endorse you next week. A U.S. judge found on Monday there is evidence of misconduct in how a federal prosecutor closely aligned with President Donald Trump secured criminal charges against the former FBI Director James Comey and ordered that grand jury materials be turned over to the former FBI chief's defense lawyers. Assistant U.S. Attorney Tyler Lemons, who is leading the prosecution of Comey, also said the full grand jury hadn't reviewed the final indictment. But in a court filing Thursday titled Government's Notice Correcting the Record, federal prosecutors said the full grand jury did review the final indictment. In doing so, the Justice Department disputed the argument by Comey's defense team that the indictment was invalid because of the missteps acknowledged in court Wednesday. Man, this just seems so shady. And it's par for the course. And nobody's held accountable. Somebody there, and I don't believe it was the assistant U.S. Attorney Tyler Lemons who said that it was not viewed. I believe it was the government when they came back to try to, patch up the little hole in their boat, comes back and says, "Oh, it was reviewed," but nobody's held accountable. Nobody. Do you know what would happen if one of us as citizens, we the people, lied in federal court on a big case? Let's put the shoe on the other foot. What if they could prove it that James Comey lied? But yet the government could come in and they lie indiscriminately and nothing is done. So James Comey, the story continued to develop. James Comey and Letitia James's cases were dismissed in a blow to the DOJ. And I have said this before. Republicans can't participate in lawfare because they follow the Constitution, or at least too many of them follow the Constitution too closely. They don't look at it as a living document. It is followed too closely, which is a great thing because we should do that anyway with unconstitutional lawfare altogether. And that's exactly what the Patriot Party is pushing against. Join us. Check us out at thepatriotparty.us. Georgia judge drops election interference case against Trump. Prosecutor sought move saying he didn't find enough evidence to support the wide-ranging racketeering charges. And that's a nice way of saying there's no case. Kangaroo court, can you say lawfare? Screaming it from the hilltops, whether you like the man or you don't like the man. It was plain and simple to watch last year. You could see it just, unfold. This travesty, this miscarriage of justice. Finally, it's being corrected. The Supreme Court will allow Texas to use a congressional map that adds as many as 5 Republican seats for next year's midterm elections, boosting the GOP's chances of retaining control of the House of Representatives. The justices on Thursday set aside a lower court, now pay attention, a lower court decision from last month that had blocked the new electoral lines and ordered Texas to use its existing ones. The lower court found that the new map was unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. But the Supreme Court said that the decision appeared to be wrong. The district court improperly inserted, now this is in quotations, inserted itself into an active primary campaign, causing much confusion and upsetting the delicate federal-state balance in elections. The unsigned order from the Supreme Court said the court's 3 liberal judges, dissented, of course. They're going to dissent because of the difference between the living and by the words of the Constitution. And that's why in our civic class, middle schoolers and high schoolers, when they're learning how to debate, will be given the debating side for the liberal side and the conservative. And then people that are watching and people that are doing the debates, children, can decide what resonates best with them, what they align with best. Put it out there, put all the facts out there, and let me decide. And that starts with our youth. This is a prime example, this whole thing about gerrymandering, of why the Patriot Party says ambiguous laws breed bureaucratic overreach and judicial activism. This is judicial activism. A lower court, and then the Supreme Court says, no, 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 no. Most of the time, if you look in the past, at least, maybe not with certain challenges, but most of the time, at least what I've seen, if there's a question, or if there has been in the past, a question, the lower courts will defer to the higher courts. They may put a stay on it. They may say, it possibly violates this, but we're going to defer to the higher courts. But these lower courts across the country are, they are almost being activists. They are trying to take these ambiguous laws and remake laws. And that is not their job. That is not their job. They're supposed to be impartial. But that's hard to do. That's human nature. You want to identify, and these hot topics, they get you feeling emotional, whether it feels good or whether it makes you upset. And these are the things that our education program and our truth-based media, looking through a constitutional lens, are going to start to battle while we do the battles in D.C. to represent you and push legislation, common sense legislation that's designed by us. We should have a say in the laws and the policies that are going to govern us. We're the ones that are having to abide by them. Why wouldn't we have a part in them? We need a bigger part. We, the people, need a bigger part in government in general. The century-old partnership between the U.S. military and scouting could be coming to an end. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is planning for the military to sever all ties with Scouting America, saying the group once known as the Boy Scouts is no longer a meritocracy and has become an organization designed to attack boy-friendly spaces. Well, I don't have a child in Scouts, so I can't call that. I don't know. But, if they've branched away from what aligned them with the military to start with, then yeah, you should sever ties. Trump calls D.C. National Guard shooting act of terror. 2 National Guard members were shot. The suspect is an Afghan national. Now, this next story, I'll tell you, it aggravates me. This company is charging disabled veterans millions, even after the VA said it is likely illegal. A Florida-based company is charging military veterans as much as $20,000 for help with disability claims. Even though the VA has said that they think it's illegal, so far nobody stopped the company or others like it. You are taking advantage of those that served, that protected us. So the name of this company, Trajector Medical, is the name of the company in Florida, but there are others. But it's the one being spoken about in this article. And it is absolutely horrendous for them to be taking advantage of our veterans. At the Patriot Party, we support our veterans and anything that can help them. We have an episode from several months ago that is a live interview with someone on the forefront of veteran affairs in D.C. and across the country. You can catch it on episode 45. That's the number. And it gives you all sorts of veterans resources. So if you're interested, check us out and share it to anybody who may need these resources. Great episode. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is facing bipartisan scrutiny over his reported order to kill everybody on a boat in the Caribbean before a second strike killed 2 survivors who were clinging onto the ship's wreckage on September 2nd. Friday, it was reported that Hegseth issued the order before the first strike, which did not immediately kill all 11 of the people on board the vessel, leading to the Special Operations Commander overseeing the attack to order a second strike. If the reports are accurate, ordering the killing of survivors would likely violate the Geneva Conventions, which prohibit denying quarters, refusing surrender, or killing those who are hors de combat. This is why Pete Hegseth's alleged directive has triggered bipartisan scrutiny and raised serious war crimes concerns. Dozens of Mexico's most dangerous prisoners, cuffed hand and foot, boarded an army jet under heavy guard. This year, a rogues gallery of cartel leaders responsible for smuggling tons of heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine into the insatiable U.S. buyer's market. The men were rousted from prison where money and corruption provided them with weapons, cocaine, booze, women, and phones to run their lucrative underworld empires from behind bars, coordinating drug shipments as well as ordering killings and kidnappings, U.S. and Mexican officials said. The prisoners had no idea of their destination. They just swiped them up. Might have black bagged them, I don't know, but at least they swiped them up. I'm sure we didn't see any pictures of that. The prisoners had no idea, and then when they got off the plane, the the interim head of the DEA, Derek Maltz, says, "Welcome to America." He greets them. So 2 groups have arrived throughout the year, and even though I personally think the war on drugs has been a total and disastrous failure, and that there are probably better options out there than the way, I'm sure there's better options out there than the way that we have things set up now. One might say Trump's actions have made him one of the most effective presidents in history battling the war on drugs. Even though I don't agree with the way they're doing it, an argument could be made there. I'm not saying it, I'm just saying an argument could be made. And then, okay, so he's going after all these cartels. Then President Trump pardons a former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez. Was the result of something extraordinary for a Central American leader and convicted cocaine trafficker. A web of powerful advocates stretching from D.C. to Mar-a-Lago is what was behind this. It was the engine. Trump's announcement stunned the president's allies and some members of his administration, including officials who spent years building the landmark case against Hernandez, according to people familiar with the matter. The decision allowed Hernandez, who had been serving a 45-year prison sentence for conspiring with cartels, to ship 400 tons of cocaine to the U.S. to walk free this week as the Trump administration escalates its war on narco traffickers by launching airstrikes on low-level smugglers at the sea. So we're going to murder people bringing maybe 100 or so kilos across, but somebody that did 400 tons? It's just so hard to understand Trump and his agenda because they are so sporadic. That's why I say Margie Taylor Greene, this week he may be against you, next week he may be with you. And from the face, they look really corrupt. But because this is in complete contrast to the story before and what he's saying and what he's doing. We're talking about almost 1 million pounds of cocaine flowing into this country, plus who knows what else. And you pardon the guy after you're going after Venezuela and talking about starting a war and blowing up boats because their president is doing the exact same thing that this guy is doing, that you pardoned? I mean, you pardoned the head of the snake. You have to cut the head of the snake off. All you're doing with your little blow-ups It's systematically killing little small-time people under an act that you're saying is war, but then you contradict yourself and say, well, it doesn't really escalate to this sense of war, but you used it to be able to justify it, and then you've gone past the 60 days where Congress is supposed to authorize. No wonder everybody's getting nervous. And I don't understand it. The FBI has made an arrest in its nearly 5-year-old investigation into who placed pipe bombs outside the offices of the Democratic and Republican National Committees the evening before January 6, 2021. The arrest marks the first action in the case in years, as police had been unable to identify the suspect, whose face was largely shielded in video footage that showed him laying the bomb near each party's headquarters. Well, we'll see. I mean, they haven't even released a name yet. Not that I'm aware of. Maybe they have now. The U.S. District Judge Rodney Grant, the Trump administration's request to unseal grand jury materials in the Epstein, Florida case, he's paving the way for those documents to be released. The Trump administration asked the court to unseal the grand jury material in light of Congress's passing the Epstein File Transparency Act, a law that requires most of the government's material on Epstein to be publicly released by December 19th. It's unclear when exactly the grand jury documents may be made public and what exactly the materials will include, but it would be before December 19th in order to comply with the law's deadline. Trump is trying to do what he should have done to start with, which is support transparency. That's what he told us he was going to do. And that's why the public is so unhappy and still so unhappy with the way things have played out. Especially when those emails were released that makes it look like he had a reason to hide everything. If he had just done this to start with, a release of things, instead of calling it fake and practically spitting in the faces of all the victims, this wouldn't have turned into such an uncontrollable wildfire within the party and such a powerful weapon for the other party. But you played right into party politics. The Department of Justice has instructed inspectors to stop evaluating prisons and jails using standards designed to protect transgender, intersex, and gender nonconforming people from sexual violence, according to an internal memo. So this policy change raises serious human rights concerns. When the government takes custody of someone, it assumes responsibility for their safety. Removing standards that specifically protect transgender, intersex, and gender nonconforming people who are statistically more vulnerable to sexual violence in prison undermines that duty of care. Incarceration strips individuals of their freedom, but it does not strip them of their constitutional rights. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which courts have interpreted to include deliberate indifference to inmate safety. Per the Patriot Party's 3 Ps, we find this unconstitutional. And if you're interested in seeing the 3 Ps, so you can compare it for yourself, it's available on our website at thepatriotparty.us. Supreme Court agrees to decide constitutionality of Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship. So, I think that there's 2 different sides of this argument. One is the bi-tech side, and one is Trump's interpretation. Not only does the bi-tech side just literally say everyone born in the United States, it literally says that, will be a citizen, but it also has case law and precedents to back that up. So I know it's feel good. I know a lot of people were like, well, this will, help, deter, or this will do that, or this will do that. But I have to go with probably the plain text version that's already got case law backing up, not this new interpretation that they're trying to put in by Trump, because that is just read me what it says, and that's what it says. And everybody said, well, this will help immigration. Trump didn't need any help with immigration. All he needed to do was use the same act that Obama and Clinton did for deportation, which is what it was meant for, instead of trying to use a wartime emergency act, which was fraught with constitutional challenges. So there was a misstep there. There needs to be a redirect there, not a we're going to go after this, we're going to go after this, even if this goes against the Constitution. But this is a prime example. This is a prime example of what the judicial system is there for. The judicial system is there to interpret Trump's perspective or the one that's backed up by case law. And if I had to guess, I would say they're going to go with not ending it. But we'll see. It'll be very interesting. And that's why I say this is what the Supreme Court is there for. To interpret. Not to make. To interpret. So I have some medical news that was very interesting. I wanted to share with you all. So in a recent study, researchers at the University of California discovered that colon cancer patients who happen to be taking a GLP-1 drug like Ozempic, the one that's going to be offered through that Trump RX or whatever, or Mounjaro, cut their risk of death in half over a five-year period from colon cancer. I thought it was very interesting. So on world news, ozone layer is on track for full recovery after UN treaty meeting, studies show. So if it's on track for a full recovery, and there's still an argument on the other side of climate change in general. But if it's on track for full recovery, then that means what we are doing at this moment is working. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why do we need to push further and spend more money if what we're doing is working? President Vladimir Zelensky's right-hand man and top peace negotiator has resigned as an investigation into alleged corruption in Ukraine's government widens. I wonder how much of this corruption involves U.S. taxpayer money. I was screaming it from the hilltops when I reported last year on Zelensky, taking his wife to Paris and buying her I think, $4 million Bugatti, limited edition Bugatti. Said, oh, well, U.S. taxpayers just bought a Bugatti for Zelensky. That's what I said. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I said when I saw that. Let's get into some financial news. When he died May 24th, Jim Simmons was worth $31.4 billion, having extracted more money from markets than any human in history. They came out with a book. Wrote a book. It's called The Man Who Solved the Market. How Jim Simmons launched the quaint revolution. Revealed how Simmons, now this is his fund, so if you want to look into his fund, well, I don't know if it'll have the returns that it did when he was alive. I'm sure it probably will. But his fund is called Medallion Fund. It averages 66% annual return over 3 decades using a mathematical algorithm that they say would make ChatGPT weep. Warren Buffett, who built Berkshire Hathaway into a $900 billion empire by considering business better than the people running them did, has averaged 20%. Both are considered geniuses. Simmons just found patterns no human could see. It's pretty cool. So here's the best savings account out there for your kids. Spectra Credit Union, Brilliant Kids Savings. Right now, they're paying 10.38% interest. Over 10% interest on your kids' savings account. That is huge. So it's not unlimited. Kids under 18 can earn 10.38 APY on the first 1,000 in a Spectra Credit Union Brilliant Kids Savings account. to help them learn about saving money. When opening a primary Spectra savings account with a minimum of $5, the child will gain access to the high interest with no monthly fees and an accompanying activity book. It's a great way your kids can watch their money grow, so they learn about investing, they learn about numbers. This is something we're going to be introducing next once we push out the civic initiative in an entrepreneurship class for middle school and high schoolers. So this is a great thing. This would be a great tool. I mean, if you think about it, even if it's only for the first 1,000, that's gonna just the first year you're making what $138 on your 1,000. So the kids can watch their money grow. It'd be fun. You know, you're not gonna get rich, but they'll make some money. Here's a list of the three top CDs in November for 2025. If you want to invest in CDs, this is what's been considered the top. Marcus by Goldman Sachs, they won 8 Best of awards. Synchrony Bank won 7 Best of awards. And Bread Financial won 5 Best of awards. Michael and Susan Dell pledged $250 to 25 million kids. Here's who's eligible. In order to qualify for the money the Dells are pledging, the child must be 10 years or younger and have been born before January 1st, 2025. Live in a zip code where the median income is $150,000 or less. So that's 10 years old or younger, born before January 1st, 2025, and live in a zip code where the median income is $150,000 or less. If you meet those, then you need to look into how to get this $250 for your child. And that, again, that's the Dells, the people who came out with Dell Computer, who have made this foundation, made this donation. Klimt painting becomes the most expensive work of modern art at auction. It sells for almost $250 million, $236.4 million. And at Sotheby's headquarters, the one that do the auctioning, the auction also sold a $12.1 million solid gold toilet. I believe that's the same toilet that had something to do with Trump. I don't know if it was in Trump Towers, but something with a solid gold toilet had something to do with Trump, and I don't know. Google co-founder Larry Page overtakes Bezos for world's third richest after Gemini 3 AI model announcement. The first family has seen its wealth drop by $1 billion since September, Bloomberg data shows. The $1 trillion cryptocurrency wipeout has dealt a big blow to the president's wealth and that of his family in a year that was supposed to see crypto riding high on bullish support from the White House. Crypto's too volatile for me. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people made a lot, but a lot of people have lost a lot too. So Trump's lost $1 billion. Private employers shed 32,000 jobs last month, most since 2023, and that hurts and puts a spotlight on what may be a big problem for Republicans in this upcoming election. Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers after a split for $72 billion. Wow. I saw Netflix was making another offer trying to buy HBO or something. I mean, Netflix is, boom, they're exploding. Let's get into some tech news. NVIDIA profits soar, soothing investor jitters over AI boom. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for AI, this movement would not be possible. You all are going to see this AI bill generator that we're going to be providing to the public and as an education tool. And I mean, AI is what is leveling the playing fields and allowing we the people to have a voice. I am embracing it full-heartedly and looking to partner up with some of these big AI developers real soon. Sales in the October quarter hit a record $57 billion. So we're talking about NVIDIA because we said the profit soared. We're talking about AI. $57 billion in 1 month. That's freaking crazy. I mean, a company's big if they make $1 billion a year. 57 in a month. That's up 62% from the year earlier quarter and exceeding consensus estimates from analysis. So it's not the month, it's the quarter, excuse me. It's still a lot. Still a lot. I mean, 3 divided by, that's almost 60 billion. That's still almost 20 billion a month. That's a lot. An independent effort says AI is a seeker to topple two-party power in Congress, using artificial intelligence to identify congressional districts where independent candidates could win. An organization called the Independent Center is aiming to disrupt the two-party system. This is very interesting and timely with the Patriot Party's AI initiative that we were just kind of touching down on in the last story. The Patriot Party movement we wouldn't be possible without our proprietary blend of AIs that generates legislation, researches it, and at the touch of a button makes it available. We're actually going to provide this very same software to the American public in our civic initiative to bring power back to we the people, like we were just talking about this a little bit earlier. As a tool to help teach our civics classes in middle and high school, and like I said, AI is leveling the playing field and giving power back to we the people. Our program, just to the one that we are pushing right now, the middle school is Foundations of American Exceptionalism, Constitutional Thinking, and Historic Debate. High school is American Constitutional Literacy, Civic Leadership, and Contemporary Debate. It's going to be a great tool for our children. We're great tool. Helping to develop the leaders and just a more cohesive, flowing society that takes part and pride in their country and their government. But we expect the same from our government. We have to start expecting them to abide by the oath that they take. But we're going to hold them to that. So let's get into some sports. A former Olympic snowboarder for Canada who is wanted by authorities for running a multinational drug trafficking network is facing additional charges in connection with the killing of a federal witness. That is not good. Killing a federal witness? Man. A UAB football player was arrested after stabbing 2 of his teammates Saturday morning at the football facility ahead of the Blazers' home game against USF, a school spokesperson confirmed. The posturing over Brian Kelly's $54 million buyout from LSU is over, as the school sent him a letter Wednesday saying it is officially terminating him without cause. So you know what that means. You're fired, but we got to give you $54 million on the way out the door, or whatever the contract payoff was. I'm guessing it was a $54 million buyout, which is what it says. So we got to give you $54 million on the way out the door. Hope it was worth it. I hope whoever they get, and they may have gotten somebody. I don't keep up with sports except for to report to y'all, what's going on, so I haven't checked into it. Well, I don't know if they got somebody. I think I may have read something. But I hope whoever they got or whoever they get can get them the record that they're looking for, or else they just threw away freaking $54 million. Ethan Dietz, a sophomore basketball player at Connors State College in Oklahoma, died Tuesday from an injury suffered during a game Saturday in Texas. Now, I can't imagine what kind of injury that you get playing basketball that is lethal, that kills you, but that is sad. That is sad for such a young person to pass so, unexpected. Who thinks they're going out to play a basketball game and they're going to get killed from the basketball game? Nobody thinks that. But that just goes to show you. We have to appreciate every day we're here because nothing is guaranteed. And I'm not talking religion. I'm saying facts. Nothing is guaranteed. You can literally play a game of basketball and die. So we have to appreciate the time because time is precious. French cyclist Stéphane Seely has been released by a Russian court after being detained for 7 weeks on suspicion of illegally crossing the country's border. Oh, a Russian prison. I bet that was rough. Fuzzy Zoeller, a 2-time major champion, one of golf's most gregarious characters, whose career was tainted by a racially insensitive joke about Tiger Woods, has died, according to a longtime colleague. He was 74. And I'm not advocating for anybody to say something bad or do whatever, hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. But we're human. Sometimes we talk before we think. Sometimes we don't have a filter. Should should one or two things be able to taint that you said that may not have been appropriate, taint your whole career? I don't know. I hadn't heard the insensitive joke, but an insensitive joke is exactly that, insensitive. Doesn't mean you cannot judge someone by one or two things they say. Actions speak louder than words. It's what do you do? What do you do in life? How do you live? How do you act? How do you treat those around you? There are so many variables, and we just want to get stuck on one thing. So let's get some celebrity news and gossip. Famous YouTuber and content creator Jack Doherty was arrested in the Miami area. Alice and Ellen Kessler, German twin entertainers who performed together and rose to fame in the 1950s and 60s, have reportedly died after choosing to end their lives together. In Germany, assisted dying is allowed in certain circumstances following a 2020 ruling by the country's highest court, which found people had the right to end their own lives and receive third-party assistance as long as their decision is being made freely and without outside pressure. You know, in the spirit of the Constitution, one could argue that personal autonomy should extend to assisted death. Legally, the U.S. Supreme Court has drawn a line. It's up to states, not a federally protected right. Personally, I think as long as what I do to myself does not affect you, then I should be able to do it. And if not, you're limiting my rights, supposedly granted by Creator, is what I would look at. You may not agree. Neighbor charged in murder of Parks and Recreation star Jonathan Joss. Legal trouble for former Housewives of Potomac star Mia Thornton. She just got arrested in Georgia, and it's all on video. Kevin Spacey admits he's homeless following sexual assault scandal that saw him canceled. The two-time Oscar winner has always denied the sexual misconduct allegations against him. You know, and if he did it, okay. But when you make an allegation like that, in general, but especially if you're making it on somebody famous or rich or something, the person they're making on is gonna be put under a microscope. So if it is just allegations after years, that means there's nothing to back it up. So, this whole cancel culture, somebody says such and such about you, but we can't back it up. It's just an allegation. But you know what? Just because someone made the allegation, your career's over. No, prove it. An allegation is not a fact. Give me facts. Before I make a decision to affect someone and their livelihood and their good name and all that, I need facts, and we should demand it. The American people should demand facts. We should not be taking people's words because everybody's got an agenda, whether it be to sue them and make money, whatever it may be. Everybody has their own agenda. That's why factual reporting is so important. Macaulay Culkin, Home Alone, he's all grown up now, confirms that's no longer his legal name. You know what? I was like, well, what's his legal name? What's his legal name? And when I read it, I was like, God, seriously? So he gets on, he says, my name is Macaulay Culkin. Okay, you just repeated yourself, and that's actually your name. You should just change it to repeat. That wasn't funny. Anyway, TikTok star Marquez the Goat died at 24. Such a young age to go. Such a young age. Prosecutors in Los Angeles County say they've charged 3 men with the murder and the fatal shooting of Maria de la Rosa, a singer who went by the stage name of De La Rosa. Acclaimed playwright Tom Stoppard dies at 88. Zachary Ty Bryan arrested for probation violation. His girlfriend was arrested too. They took them both into custody. Rapper Poor Stacy dead at 26. The death in Florida was a suicide, but some of his family members feel it was something more nefarious. Multiple sources with knowledge of the investigation tell us poor Stacy shot himself Saturday morning in a Boca Raton hotel room, but initially survived. He was transported to a local hospital where he died Monday after being taken off life support. Money does not buy happiness. I don't know whether he did or he didn't. That's just what they're saying with suicide, but I mean, money does not buy happiness. Miley Cyrus engaged to musician Max Morando after 4 years of dating. And I will reframe that. Money, fame, none of that outside stuff. Happiness starts from within. True happiness starts from within. You have to be happy yourself to make other people happy. Or at least that's my opinion. So, you can't you can't introduce happiness because you got a lot of money, because you got a nice car. Those are very superficial. That's not true happiness. True happiness starts from within. That's like I said, that's my opinion. Could Stranger Things become the next Star Wars? Kind of franchise style, The Netflix show has already earned $1 billion, and that's before this final season, which started to release, which I'll tell you what, it's not disappointing so far. So let's get into some new TV shows. December 1st, The Abandons on Netflix, which is a frontier drama about survival and justice in the Old West. So that's on Netflix. December 2nd saw The Copenhagen's Test on Peacock. It's an espionage thriller set against international intrigue and covert operations. It's on Peacock. December 3rd, 12 Dates Till Christmas, the Hallmark Channel. It's a holiday romance limited series following festive love stories across 12 dates. December 4th, Spartacus, House of Assur. That's on Stars. Revival of the gladiator epic, exploring power struggles and rebellion in ancient Rome. Pluribus, Apple TV Plus, new series, multiple storylines, a tense character-driven drama. Adolescence, it's on Prime Video, it's a teen drama, focusing on coming-of-age challenges, friendships, and identity in modern high school life. Sinners on FX and Hulu, critically acclaimed drama tackling morality, corruption, and redemption in a small town setting. Let's get into some new movies. December 1st, Trolls 2 on Netflix, a Norwegian monster horror sequel bringing mythological terror and adventure following up the original Troll. I enjoyed it. Now, it is a voiceover, and I cannot usually watch a voiceover because they usually, to me, make movies seem cheap. But this one was done well enough, and it's interesting enough to really enjoy. And if you click watch, it plays Troll 1 before it plays Troll 2. And I didn't even know that. So I'm watching it, think I'm watching Troll 2. I'm like, man, this is a good movie. And then at the end, Troll 2 comes up. And it was good, too, and it was a continuation. I enjoyed that movie. Big Mama's House, Netflix, crime comedy about FBI agent Malcolm Turner disguising himself as an older woman to protect his family. Cheaper by the dozen on Netflix. Now, these are kind of older movies, but they're releasing on these channels. We know what Cheaper by the Dozen is. It's a family comedy. Godzilla on Netflix. Christmas with the Cranks on HBO Max. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Dog Days, HBO Max. Girls Trip, HBO Max. Oh, What Fun, Prime Video, and My Secret Santa, Netflix, which is a seasonal romantic comedy about love and surprises during the holidays. Five Nights at Freddy's, that's in theaters. That came out yesterday. Hamnet, theaters. Dust Bunny, limited in theaters. Dark thriller about hidden secrets in a suburban setting. Kill Bill, The Whole Body Affair, limited, theaters, extended cut of Quentin Tarantino's martial arts revenge saga. Man Finds Tape in theaters, psychological thriller revolving around a mysterious videotape and its disturbing contents. Jay Kelly, it's on Netflix, drama debuting on streaming, exploring identity and personal struggles. Dies Irae, Gia Hotstar. Don't really know what that is, but I've never watched that. So let's get to the pick of the week. Let's get to that. This week I'm picking a series I enjoyed. It's on Netflix. It's called Dark Winds. The series is set in the 1970s on the Navajo Nation, following Lieutenant Joe Leaphorn and his deputy Jim Chee as they investigate a string of seemingly unrelated crimes. Themes include mystery, cultural identity, spirituality, and justice, blending crime drama with Navajo traditions and history. And I just really enjoyed the show. It was a good mix of so many different things. That's a wrap for this week's Patriot Party show. Remember, truth isn't partisan, it's patriotic. Stay safe, stay informed, and check out thepatriotparty.us for more updates, interviews, and movement news. We have a bunch of exciting interviews, some big names planned for the next month. Join us this week for a great interview, and I will see you next Saturday, right here, where truth keeps everyone.